I want you to think about something. In your entire life, how much money have you ever made? And let me explain what I mean by that. When you were 15 years old, you probably got your first check ever for maybe mowing lawns or helping out with yard work or something like that, and you probably made around $100, if that, right? From that time until right now, I don't know if you're 28 years old, I don't know anything, in your entire life, how much money total has passed through your hands? Maybe you made $50,000 last year at 28 years old. And maybe the first time you ever got a check in your entire life or any amount of money was when you were 13 years old mowing the lawn for your parents. I want you to add up every single one of those numbers since you were 13 years old until you're right now, and I want you to come up with a single number. Now that number might be 100,000, it might be 1 million, it might be 10 million, right? It depends on who you are, how much money you make, and how old you are. But the real question is this: how much money of that total do you actually have in your wallet, right? How much money of that total number do you actually have saved inside of your checking account or inside of investments or inside of your bank account? And if you're not happy with this question, then it's very simple. The reason that you don't have a lot of money left or a lot of money saved is because you don't understand the rules of money. And today I'm going to be talking about the 10 rules of money that you need to master if you want to start making more money, but more importantly, actually keeping more money. And these are the rules that I've personally followed to generate millions and millions of dollars all before the age of 30. And obviously I've made a lot of mistakes and I've cost myself, a ton of money making those mistakes. But the good thing about this video is if you watch it until the end, you can profit from all of the mistakes I've made and you can apply them to your own life so that you can avoid those same mistakes that cost me a ton of money so they won't cost you a penny. And I promise you, if you understand, right, not memorize, but understand all 10 rules, you're going to be well on your way to mastering money. Rule number one is the most important one, and that is that money is a game. And the sooner that you stop trying to fight it, the sooner that you'll actually start to realize that money is a game. And like every game, you can master it, right? If I've played the game 1,000 times and you've only played the game once, I'm obviously much more likely to win at that game. It's like a video game, it's like a board game, it's like anything else. The more times you play, the more practice you get, the better that you become at it. And so you can choose to think about this in one of two ways. You can think, oh, it's a game, you're right, I'm always going to lose. Or you can think, oh, it's a game. And like any game, it can be learned and it can be mastered. So you can be like some people where you say, oh, they got lucky or they're just too smart, right? That's why they're rich. No, it's not like that, right? Money is a game. It can be learned. It can be mastered like anything else. You just have to know the rules. So the great thing about the money game is that it can be learned. And so many people fight it. So many people have problems with it. And they say, oh, well, they became rich because, they had rich family or they had, they were too smart. No. Money is a game and it can be learned and it can be mastered. Rule number two is don't waste money. There's absolutely no reason in the world to fly first class until you have $10 million in the bank. I see so many people spending $2,000, $3,000 on a first class flight when you can get the exact same flight for $300 not sitting in first class. Listen, do you know how many times that I personally have ever paid for first class? Because the answer is 0. I literally have never paid for first class in my entire life, and there's a very specific reason why. And the reason is because I did the math, right? If a first class flight costs $2,000 and I fly 10 times a month, that's 20 grand. If I fly 10 times a month for $300, that's 3 grand. That's literally a $17,000 difference. And if I add that up for the entire year for 12 months, right, it's over $200,000 wasted that I literally could use to buy marketers. I could buy, more staff for my sales team. I could literally upgrade software, buy new laptops, right? There's so many different better uses of that money. So the rule is do not waste money on things you don't need until you have at least $10 million in the bank. And at that point, if you want to go fly first class, then be my guest. Rule number 3 is when there's a crisis, everything goes on sale. CNN, Fox News, Dave Ramsey, all these people get paid to do one thing. They literally get paid to sell crises. People get afraid and think it's the end of the world and finally everything's gonna collapse, right? The real estate market's gonna collapse, the stock market's gonna collapse, nothing's ever gonna recover. Literally, it's the end of the world. Just like in 2008 when the market fell intensely, right? It fell all the way down to something like 6,000 points, but now the market has absolutely exploded back up to over 25,000 points for the Dow Jones industrial average. Imagine if you had left your money in just 8 years ago, right? You would have gone from 6,000 points to over 25,000, over a 4 times return, even at the very bottom of the worst financial crisis in years. And those who have cash set aside for when crises take place, those are the people who truly win the game of money. Because every time a crisis takes place, a lot of people get extremely wealthy. Because literally everything becomes on sale, right? Houses become half off. Cars become half off if they're exotics, right? Art. All types of things that wealthy people buy and can make extreme amounts of money on literally go half price because everyone thinks that the world is ending. And so it's vital to understand that the world is not ending, right? The world has not ended for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years, right? There's no reason for you to believe that the world is going to end. And if the world is going to end, then money doesn't matter at all anyways. And so a lot of people are saying that the market is about to tank again, right? I don't know if it's going to tank again this year or next year or in 5 years, but I do know that it's going to tank in the next 20 years. And you better believe that I am going to be 100% ready for when that takes place. You have to be ready for it also. Rule number 4 is emulate the best. And what I mean by that is study the smartest investors, because studying the smartest investors who literally dedicate their entire lives to investing and to understanding how money works and how the economy works, you can literally learn from a single book what someone has dedicated their entire life from, right? And if they're one of the best investors in the world, then they're a billionaire. So why wouldn't you take the time to read a book, right? A summation of all of the knowledge of some of the smartest people in the world when it comes to the rule of money, and then take those lessons that they tell you in the book and apply them to your own investing strategies and your own mentality and mindset when it comes to money. You'll learn from their mindset, and nothing else actually portrays what someone's doing with their money than to look at what they actually invest in themselves. So what I like to do is look and see, what is Warren Buffett actually invested in, right? What is Ray Dalio actually invested in? And if you can follow along with them, you know, in a smaller way, obviously, because most of us aren't billionaires like those two, but we can follow along and make investments that make sense to you. I don't invest in utilities because I don't understand utilities. I invest mainly in technology because I understand technology. I know what, companies have competitive barriers to entry. I know what companies have monopolies, right? I know what companies are going to be around for the long term, and what companies I don't understand, I never invest in. So what I do is I study the best investors. I learn why they do what they do, right? I look at what they actually do, what they're investing their own personal money in, right? And then I use that to actually come up with my own investing strategy that is similar to theirs. Rule number 5 is do you and no one else. And what I mean by this is it's a very dangerous game, right? Because money and happiness are two different things. They're independent of one another. I know a lot of rich people that are not very happy. And so one of the quickest ways to not be a happy person is comparing your money situation to someone else's. Because if you made $10,000 this month for the very first time, right? It's the most money you've ever made in a month, but you learned that your neighbor made $100,000. All of a sudden, you're not happy about making that $10,000 anymore. You're sad at comparing yourself making less than your neighbor. And so the best thing you can do is focus on yourself. Focus on your business. Compare only yourself to your past self. Never compare yourself to other people. If you focus all of your attention on adding massive value to your customers, it's going to pay off exponentially. And your vision might not be to go out and become the next billionaire, right? Maybe you want to make $1 million. If that's your plan, stick to it, right? Focus on that. But don't go out there and constantly compare yourself to other people, right? That is how you become unhappy. And trust me, money is nothing if you're not happy. I know a lot of rich people that are not happy people. And so you have to focus on yourself, right? Because you're always going to be happy if you're making incremental progress compared only against your own self in the past. And so the point is, guys, never compare yourself to other people because you don't know what their situation is, right? Maybe your neighbor who is making $100,000, he's been doing it for 50 years, he's working 90-hour weeks, and he's very unhappy, right? He might have more money, but he doesn't have the same quality of life that you have. So never compare yourself to other people. Rule number 6 is befriend moneymakers. And I'll tell you why that is, because if you're around other people who are making money, you're going to make money, and that's just the way it is. And if you're around entirely a bunch of people that don't know anything about money and don't know how to make money, you're not going to make money. That's also how it is. A quote that I love in business is, you are the sum of the 5 people people that you spend the most time with. And that is entirely 100% true. And if you spend the most time with 5 people that know nothing about money, you're also going to probably know nothing about money. But if you spend the most time with 5 people that know a lot about money and make a lot of money, I promise you, you are going to make more money. Rule number 7 is money doesn't make you happy, kind of. And this is a really important one because there's a lot of misconception here, because money doesn't make you happy directly. And that's 100% true, because if money did make you happy, then every rich person that I know would be inherently happy. But that's actually not how it is in the real world. But it's also naive to think that money does not increase someone's quality of life. Money allows you to never experience the stress of worrying about a late rent payment or worrying about what you're going to eat that night. But it's also so critical to understand that money cannot buy you happiness. Because if your happiness is directly linked to your money, then I promise you, you are not going to be a happy person, because money comes and goes. And if you allow your happiness to be directly linked to the amount of money that you're making, then your happiness is going to go right up and down with it. Rule number 8 is about leverage, right? The only difference between a king and a peasant is positioning and leverage. Everything is about leverage, but I'm talking about leverage in business, period, right? Leverage in a negotiation to get a better deal, leverage to get more clients, or leverage to get more sales, leverage to sell more products, right? Everything is leverage. Positioning means that if I'm going to go work at a company, I'm going to put myself in the position to actually own some equity. So if that company, ever goes public or starts earning a ton of money and gets bought out privately, right, then I'm actually going to be in the position to make a huge amount of money from that. You've got to position yourself to make the most money, right? With your income, with your investments, with everything that you do. If you put yourself in the right position, right, the best position to potentially make the most money, you're going to make the most money. But you have to put yourself in that position, and you have to use your leverage with money to get there. Number 9 is strategic partnerships. Strategic partnerships basically means working with people who are going to have a lot of synergy with your company. And what I mean by that is you want to work with people who are making a lot of money. You want to work with people who are going to make you a lot of money, right? So when everyone's incentives are aligned, that's when business truly works. When I'm going to make someone a lot of money and they're going to make me a lot of money, that is a strategic partnership when it's good for both of us. And that is when things really get interesting and everyone starts to make a lot of money. And rule number 10, and probably the most important one to me personally, is that money comes the fastest when you don't actually seek it. And let me explain what I mean by that. When I was desperate for money, right, when I needed money the most, it seemed like it was the hardest thing in the world to earn even a single another dollar. I needed money now, and that made it so much infinitely harder to actually get. Think about it from a dating perspective. If you look desperate and you need it now, right, you look so much less attractive to the person that you're on a date with, right? No one wants to go on a date with someone who's desperate. It's the exact same thing with money. If you desperately seek it, it becomes infinitely harder to actually get. But if you concentrate instead on adding value, whether it's adding value to your customers or supplying a superior product or service or adding better customer service, when you focus on impact and customer experience and adding value, the funniest thing happens. More money than you could ever dream of starts to pour directly into your bank account. So with the 10 rules of money, you're well on your way to actually starting to master money. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you tap the little like button and make sure that you drop a comment below telling me your thoughts on money and whether or not you have mastered the game of money. And make sure, if you enjoyed this video, to tap the little subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so that you will be up to date when we release any brand new videos on how to make money and become financially free on the internet. And because I want to give back to all of you beautiful YouTube family members, make sure that you do click our giveaway link right here in the description. We're going to be giving away an iPhone X and a MacBook laptop and so much more. So make sure that you enter it if you want to be our next big winner. And until next time, ninjas, happy hustling.